Well, good afternoon, You Spirit family. It's great to be here with you for this week's devotional, and I hope you're having a blessed week. I've invited my friend Gordo here to join me in this week's devotional because I want to use him as an illustration for this week's message. See, today I want to talk to you about how important you are to God. And sometimes it's easy to forget how valuable you are to God. And so I want to share with you a passage out of the book of Job. And most of us know the passage. Most of us know the story of Job. There was probably no one in the Old Testament that suffered more than Job, who lost his family, who suffered from physical boils on his body. But yet he never forsook God. He never turned his back on God. But he did question and say, Lord, I don't get this. I don't understand why this is happening. And in chapter 38 of Job, God answers Job and explains a few things to him. And maybe sometimes you feel this way. Sometimes you feel like maybe God doesn't know what you're going through. Maybe you feel like not so valuable in God's eyes. But I want to share with you what God says to him. It says in chapter 38, Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said, Who is this that darkens my counsel, my words without knowledge? Dress for action like a man. I will question you, and you will make it known to me. And then he says, Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. You see, God was saying to Job, Job, you don't get it. You don't understand. You have such a small and minuscule viewpoint about your life. You don't understand the greater picture. Only I do. And maybe what you're going through doesn't make sense to you, but in the grand scheme of things, I have a purpose behind your life and what you're doing. And so he speaks to him in a mighty way, and he tells him about who he is and what he's done. He says, Have the gates of death been revealed to you? Or have you seen the gates of deep darkness? Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all this. He's saying to him, you don't have the big picture, Job. You don't understand everything. You weren't there when I created the cosmos. You weren't there when I created the skies and the light and all of the things. How can you understand what's going on in your life, much less what's happening in the aspect of the cosmos? And he tells him, where did the snow come from? Or where did the rain come from? Tell me if you know all these things. Have you comprehended the expanse of the earth? Declare if you know all these things. These are deep and strong and powerful words where God tells him, you don't see the big picture. Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades or loose the cords of the Orion? Do you know the ordinances of the heavens? Can you establish the rule of the earth? So God is speaking big here. And he's saying, you don't see the big picture, Job. But then God does something amazing. He then says, as big as those things are, he gets very, very tiny. He says in verse 41 of chapter 38, Who provides for the raven its prey when its young ones cry to God for help and wander about for lack of food? Do you know in chapter 39, when the mountain goats give birth, do you observe the calving of the does? You see, God is saying, not only do I loose the stars and I put everything into order in the cosmos, I also know the cry of the baby ravens when they're hungry. I also know when the mountain goats give birth, and I count the days until they do. God is a God who doesn't overlook the details. And what he's saying to Job is, Job, if I pay attention to all of these things, don't you think that you, as valuable as you are to me, that I don't pay attention to you? It's a reminder to you and me that if God would know even somebody like Gordo and all of the creatures that are on this earth, how much more does he not value us? And Jesus reflects this in Matthew. He reminds us in his message in Matthew chapter 6, he says in verse 25, Therefore I tell you, do not be anxious about your life, what you will eat or what you will drink, nor about your body, what you will put on. Is not life more than food and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? So God is reflecting this, and he's saying, guys, if God pays attention to the smallest of birds, how much more you? You're so valuable to him. And I want to encourage you this day, if you feel less than valuable today, if you feel forgotten and lonely, I want to remind you, God has not forgotten a single aspect of your life. He knows every hair on your head. He knows everything that you're going through. He loves you. And I want to encourage you today to remember how valuable you are to him. You truly are the most precious thing to God. May this message encourage you. May it strengthen you in your walk with God. And until next time, Gordo, you want to say bye? Until next time.